The reviewer already posted its comment on this pull request and it's still running. Same file, same finding, second comment, and now it's opening the diff again from the top. Nothing here is broken, the tools all worked, and the review it wrote was correct. It just doesn't know that it's finished. Whoever built this told it to stop when its own reply said the review was complete. So it's waiting for a sentence, and a sentence is not a signal. Freeze it right there, because that exact mistake is what this exam is built to test. So here is the stem, exam style. What should end this loop? That stem lives in domain 1, Agentic Architecture and Orchestration, the largest domain on the exam. Roughly 16 of the 60 questions you'll sit come from it, which makes it the one to be strongest on. Inside it, ours is task statement 1.1, designing and implementing agentic loops for autonomous task execution. By the end, you'll know exactly what a loop stops on and when one loop is the right shape for a job. It's also the first build episode, so from here we are building one system, a pull request reviewer inside one engineering org. The architect question parked in the corner, all episode is the first of the 4. Where does the work run? Here is where the system starts, and it really is this small. One prompt in a terminal that says review this pull request, and one engineer watching the output land. For that job, that shape is correct, and to see why, you watch what happens between pressing return and the comment appearing. The exam guide calls this the agentic loop life cycle, and it names the steps. So let's use its words. You send the model a request. The model replies, and the reply carries a field called stop reason. If stop reason says tool use, the model is asking you to run something for it. So you run it. You take what the tool produced and send it back. That's one full iteration. Then it goes around again. Request, stop reason, run the tool, return the result. And when stop reason says end turn instead, the model has finished and the loop exits. On our reviewer, those terms have names and they're worth memorizing. Read the diff, decide, comment, stop. Read the diff is a tool call, decide is a turn where the model calls nothing and just things. Comment is a tool call that writes to the thread, and stop is end turn. 4 steps, 1 exit. So the next question is, what separates this loop from an ordinary script? The guide answers that in exactly 1 sentence. So let's read it together. Tool results are appended to the conversation history, so the model can reason about the next action. Read that slowly, because it's the load-bearing sentence of the whole domain. Every iteration the transcript gets longer, and the model sees all of it again on the next turn. So the diff it read on turn 1 is still in front of it when it writes the comment 3 turns later. That's the story. The principle is the transcript is the loop's memory, and nothing outside it exists to the loop. Nobody's said yet who picks the next tool each time around, and that fork is one the exam tests directly. Now the fork, who decides what the loop does next? The guide splits loop, steering into model-driven decision-making and pre-configured decision trees. Model-driven means the model looks at everything in the transcript and picks the next tool itself. Pre-configured means you decided the order in advance and your code just walks it. A fixed sequence is easy to audit and it can't handle the case you didn't see coming. A loop can, and it'll sometimes take a route you wouldn't have picked. So the question is never which one is better, it's whether the work has an order you can know in advance. Reviewing a diff you can't know before you open it whether this one needs a migration check or a test check. Refunding a customer does. Verify first, then pay, and that order comes from the business, not from the content. So the reviewer keeps the loop steered from outside by exactly one thing, that stop reason field. Tool use and end turn are only the 2 values you meet on a good day. So here is the field in full. Tool use means the model wants a tool run, you run it, return the result and the loop continues. End turn means the model finished naturally and it's the only value on the list, that means the work is done. Max tokens means the reply hit the output limit and got cut off partway through. Stop sequence means a stop string you configured was hit, so it stopped where you told it to. Refusal means the model declined the request. Pause turn means a server-side tool loop hit its iteration limit, so the turn is paused, not finished. And model context window exceeded means the conversation outgrew the room it has to fit in. Now read that list as an architect. One value continues the loop, one value ends it, and everything else is news. A loop that treats every reply that isn't a tool call as finished will ship a truncated review as a finished one. So why do loops still spin with all of this handed to them? Now for the heart of the episode, the difference between a loop that terminates and a loop that spins. A loop terminates when its exit condition is a fact the protocol handed it. It spins when its exit is something it has to interpret. Run the cold open back with that rule in your head. That loop stopped on review complete, so its exit lived inside a sentence. The guide is unusually direct about this. It names 3 termination anti-patterns by hand, so learn all 3. First, don't parse natural language signals to decide the loop is over. That's the cold open exactly. A loop waiting for a phrase inside a sentence the model happened to write. Second, don't use an arbitrary iteration cap as your primary stopping mechanism. A cap is a budget, and a budget is a good idea, so keep one. But a cap that fires is a loop that didn't finish and calling that done approves a half-reviewed pull request. Third, don't check whether the reply contains assistant text and treat that as completion. A model can write a paragraph of careful reasoning and still be about to call a tool, so text never meant done. Waiting for a phrase reads the exit out of the content, checking for text does the same, and a cap just stops reading at a number. Those aren't 3 mistakes, they're 1 mistake seen from 3 angles. All 3 go digging through the model's words for an answer, the reply already carried in a field stated as a fact. So say the rule the way you'll use it on exam day. A loop exits on a fact the protocol handed it, never on an interpretation. The loop now stops properly, which leaves the bigger call whether one loop was even the right shape to build. The loop is built and it stops on a fact. One decision left whether one loop was the right amount of architecture. Nadia runs the merge gate here, and when the reviewer switched on, she asked one thing: will it hold? For one pull request at a time, with an engineer reading the output, the answer is yes, and building more would be wrong. One loop is enough when the job fits in one context, has no order you can know in advance, and produces one result a person reads. Add pressure to any one of those 3 and the shape has to change, and the exam knows which change goes with which pressure. Too much to hold at once, and you split the work that's sub-agents. An order that must never be broken, and you stop trusting a loop to respect it. That's enforcement. Nobody in the room to read the output, so it runs unattended. That's a headless run. Today the reviewer needs none of them, and recognizing that is a scored skill. So let's prove it holds on a question built from the exact bug we opened with. The stem. The merge gate must never receive a review that stopped halfway through the files it was given. Today the loop continues while the reply contains text and exits on a completion phrase the team agreed on. Option A. Raise the iteration cap so the loop has room to reach its completion phrase. Option B. Instruct the model in the system prompt to always end its final reply with that exact phrase. Option C. Drive the loop from stop reason, continue on tool use, exit on end turn, and treat every other value as an unfinished run. Option D. Keep the phrase check and add a second check that the last tool call made was the comment tool. Name the question first. The stem is about how a run terminates, so this is where does the work run. Then find the absolute must never receive a review that stopped halfway. Option B is advice to the model, and advice can't promise never, so B dies on that word alone. Option A makes the budget bigger, and a budget was never a stopping mechanism, so a bigger one isn't a better one. Option D is the same mistake in a smarter quote. two content checks are still content and content needs interpreting. Option C is the answer. Its exit is a fact. The model handed over, not a sentence somebody has to interpret. And the last clause matters. Handling every other value is what keeps a truncated review out of Nadia's gate. Look at where the system stands tonight. One loop, one pull request, driven by stop reason, every other value handled as news. Read the diff, decide, comment, stop, and now you can say what each of those four is in protocol terms. 2 lines to walk into the exam with: a loop exists on a fact, never on an interpretation. And one loop is enough while the job fits one context, has no knowable order, and in one result a person reads. Next time a pull request lands with 40 files in it, and this exact loop does what it was built to do, one file at a time. The tools will work, the verdict will read clean, and somewhere down that stack you'll watch its attention quietly run out.